That's right. Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
And Jacob Wild, too.
And welcome to our Spoilercast for Inside Out 2. Yeah, that's right. Would you guys believe it? Disney's actually made a movie in the last year or so that is really, really good. Granted, we had Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, but this is a comeback for Disney in a lot of ways. I'm excited to break it down. Let's see. I'll throw it to Jacob first. Jacob, what is basically like expectations going in, thoughts coming out?
Well, I'm a fan of the original Inside Out, so going into this, I was pretty interested to see how they would expand the world of Riley's inner mind and all that. And going in, I was interested to say the least. And coming out, I was quite surprised by how it turned out. And like some of it is quite similar to how the first movie went, but with some pleasant surprises along the way. I definitely enjoyed my time watching this and all that. So I don't know if I'll see it again because I explicitly did see the original movie in theaters twice. I'm not sure I'll do the same thing for this, but I wouldn't say it was a waste of time. I did really enjoy it.
All right, Dragon, what say you?
Well, we all loved Inside Out, the first movie. That built-in, as we saw at the very tail end of Inside Out, there's built-in sequel potential as we went into everyone else's mind and we saw, okay, well, technically we could just kind of we keep this party going forever if we really wanted to. I was curious. I think like a lot of people, and they announced Inside Out 2 before we had the Riley of it all, confirmed. I think there was a question of are we going to do that? We ended up going with Riley, which of course not a problem there because again there's built story material there too as well. We end on now she's 12. What could happen? So I think a lot of people, one of my associates here, I think were worried that it could be very heavily compared to Turning Red, or basically be in the shadow of Turning Red. So that was definitely kind of a fear I think some people had going into it. But I thought this was really good. I think it did right by the first film. It didn't lack the magic. I don't. If you're asking me to pick between the two movies, and mind you, I just saw Inside Out 2 just one time, so I don't know if it's fully sunk in, but I don't think it has. I like Inside Out 2, but I don't love it as much as the first movie, only because I think the first film has that universal simplicity of a movie, where it's a classic. There was an instant classic when it came out, and this movie it develops the world in a smart way that makes sense, and it just feels more. I mean, the only difference really between the two is that this just feels a little bit more specific. Where again, the first movie is very much kind of a classic, going from childhood to the very beginnings of adulthood, kind of a universal struggle, universal thing. And that's not to say this movie doesn't have that as well, but it's just I don't know. There's something a little bit more, just kind of a little more broad, kind of widespread with the first film. And this is just more okay, this is the next story in that film, but just not hey, let's pop in, Inside. I don't think people are going to say, let's put in Inside Out 2 before we put in Inside Out, 1. But a big takeaway for me with all this is it's Pixar in that groove that I like. It's like when you go to see a Pixar film, I'm watching it, I'm engrossed, I can see the story on the screen, and I'm impressed, and that's a good Pixar experience for me. So don't forget about giving Disney the win. Give Pixar the win.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right about that.
That's what I'm saying. Enough of of labeling all Marvel's success is Disney's success, and this when Moana 2 is a success, then that's Disney's success. This is Inside Out 2. This is Pixar's success, my friend.
Fair. So yeah, I quite enjoyed this one as well. I was nervous about it. I was nervous about it through the context of the Turning Red thing. I was nervous about it because Pete Docter wasn't returning. And I guess for me, most prevalently before the movie actually came out, beyond a couple exceptions, Dune Part 2 being the most notable one, this year has really not been great for movies just in general. I've liked some of the stuff that's come out, but there's really, besides Dune Part 2 and Challengers, those are like the big two for me. Everything else is just kind of like existing in sort of like a pool of mediocrity where, some stuff is pretty good. Like I thought Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, pretty good. Doesn't exceed the Matt Reeves films, but it's still pretty good. But with this movie, yeah, I definitely think while it doesn't reach the same emotional heights of the original, I certainly think that this movie, the big magic trick it pulls for me is that it's, for me, in my opinion, even more creative than the original. It's got like just a ton of gags, a ton of world building in it. I'm actually kind of amazed at the fact that they managed to almost double the number of emotions in this movie, and yet still, I would, in my personal opinion, I think the characters are balanced as far as screen time goes better than they were in the original film. Like, I feel like each individual emotion has more to do, and that's crazy when you consider that we bring on another 4 emotions. I do think that, for me, the big hang up with this movie is I'm just not as into the teen drama element of it as I was the moving to San Francisco thing. And honestly, I can already I don't want to get too into it with Pete Docter's recent comments. I feel like part of those comments he's kind of walked back already. But I did honestly kind of feel that coming into play. As much as I did like this movie, it feels like less of a fully cohesive and, fully well-baked story, and more of like a playground for creative ideas and really funny and cool set pieces. That being said, this movie is a freaking playground of creative ideas and cool set pieces, and I love that about it. Like, it's definitely a worthy sequel for me. I definitely think it's probably the best non-Toy Story Disney sequel that we've ever gotten, as far as or Pixar sequel. So yeah, I'm excited to break it down. Obviously, the emotion of anxiety in particular, that's the one that's going to define me, Code Kiosk. I don't know about these other two. But yeah, I've that whole element of the movie just worked so well for me. It was cool to have anxiety as borderline being a villain. At the very least, she's an antagonist, but she's not, she's not like an outwardly malicious antagonist, but she's not a twist villain either. There's a lot of complexity with anxiety in this movie, just like there's a lot of complexity with having to deal with anxiety in real life. I'm excited to break that all down. Okay, let's see. I'm going to go through some of the comments here. Little Blue is saying, I'm still going to leave a comment. I haven't seen the film, but I plan to with my dad, and I'll most likely listen to your guys' Spoilercast after seeing the film. That is totally fair, Little Blue. Kokia says, I don't know how many bronies are on here, but the bored emotion looks so much like Mod Pie, and it's uncanny. I have no idea what you're talking about, Kokios, but more power to you.
There's probably a pony with kind of an emo teen kind of look.
Let's see. Z&K says it's not as strong as the first, but it's not in any way a downgrade or a pointless add-on. It still maintains the charm and creativity, says Z&K channel. All right, so yeah, let's just go ahead and get started with this.
Yeah. Well, something I want to mention, right? Sorry, I don't really have specifically background on this, but I do want to highlight kind of our creatives on this one, real quick. Kelsey Mann directed. This is his directorial debut, and we're familiar with some of Kelsey Mann's other stuff. He directed the short Party Central, for Monsters University. Well, it was the top of one of the Muppet movies, but the point being Party Central, but also directed pretty much almost all of season 2 of Megas XLR.
Nice.
Yeah. More like he directed half of season 2.
Well, okay, yes. The point being, he directed a lot of season 2.
And so it's important to distinguish, like, this is like his theatrical feature length debut.
Yeah. So Yeah. So let's see. The two writers that worked on this. We had one of the three writers from Inside Out came back, Meg LaFalvey.
I thought it was just LaFave, but that could
Well, all
work.
right, fine. Maybe it is LaFall. I don't know. I took a guess. LaFall. All right, did Inside Out and Onward she worked on, so she's had some really top tier kind of Pixar credits to her name. Also, the main reason I wanted to bring this up, Tiki. Guess who one of the co-writers was?
I don't know.
I knew you wouldn't. I'm going to tell you. It was Dave Holstein.
You're gonna have to tell me his credits, Dragon.
Oh man,
I'm
so
sorry.
Dave Holstein, the creator of Kidding.
Oh, okay, got it.
He,
I mean,
he-
honestly, that really does add up as far as like Kidding is also very much a show that's kind of like exploring all these different concepts in a really unique and artistic way. So
Now,
yeah, that
it's-
very
it's-
much holds up.
I went back into the making of the first Inside Out, so this was kind of debunked. But when I found that out in the credits when I was watching for the first time, I did kind of freak out for a moment. I think, oh my god, that's why we have an emotion named ennui. It's like the
Oh my
bread, the French breadstick, the French baguette. But no. The whole crux of this movie was based on is basically Pixar doing what they do best. When they do the second movie, they go back to the first movie and they kind of find some abandoned ideas, kind of give them some polish and find a way to rework them. And ennui was one of the many emotions that they had. They had like a whole room full of emotions.
I basically equate it to like all the discarded names for the Seven Dwarves back in the day.
Sure. So kind of similar thing. Anyway, so ennui was one of the many concepts, like a one-note gag that they didn't have room for because they had so many emotions, and then they kind of tossed that. So we found a way to put them back. So ennui was on the table, wasn't just Dave Holstein, but a guy can dream. I can dream, can't I? Okay, so we're gonna move on. All right, so I guess the place to start would be kind of our intro to the movie, kind of our reintroduction to things.
Yeah. I want to get this out of the way pretty quickly into it, Dragon, because one of the big things that you and I really responded to was the score. And while I do really like the score in this movie, I do think that they kind of go back to the well of using just kind of different remixes of Bundle of Joy a little too much. And they very clearly like credit Giacchino for a lot of the original compositions here. It's not an original score, and that's frankly a little disappointing. But that being said, I do think that having the more orchestrated, kind of heavier theme of Bundle of Joy kind of like transition into like a sort of punk rock version of it, that it's a really good place to start. Starting with a hockey game and showing all the original emotions at work. I think that's really nice, efficient storytelling. I actually think the exposition in this movie is, I will say one of the few things that I think the first movie is a little bit clunky with is that it takes a little bit too long for me as far as like setting everything up and then actually getting into the meat of the story. I mean, there's a lot of details there that you have to go into with that first movie, and this movie kind of streamlines that, and I appreciate it.
All right.
Yeah, I really like how I like the fact that it's a hockey game because it picks up essentially where the first film left off. Obviously, there's been a year in between them, but it's just the idea. Okay, this is kind of where we left her off. She's in a good place. She's playing hockey, and that's where we're checking. We have some really great hockey animation, and via a kind of excited kind of commentator during a hockey game through
I wonder
Joy.
how Kevin Smith feels about this movie.
What's I'm say? I wonder how into hockey Kevin still is because he's been kind of like I don't know. He's been going through a lot of transformative phases lately.
But I'm saying like not even just the hockey thing, although I'm sure the hockey thing would appeal to him, but also the raising a teenage daughter thing. He's
yeah, well you're right about
thing or
that.
two
Yeah.
about that.
Well, I'm sure if he saw it, he loved it.
Yeah.
Plus, he does own a movie theater, so he might.
That's true.
But so we demonstrate basically catch people up in case you haven't seen the first movie through this really kind of fun way, and we showed Riley's older now. He's how the emotions work. So this is the old status quo. But now the big thing we got to talk about with this movie, the world building, how we expanded upon the world building, the new stuff that we have going on.
Yep.
All right. So I love how we grow the status quo because Riley is growing up. It's not just like, hey, we're doing a movie, so we need new stuff. It's like, well, if we're going to introduce new elements so we don't just get stale doing the old stuff again, we're going to see that, with Riley growing up, there's going to be a change in procedure and environment of the mindscape. So we have the big thing, sending the memories to the back of the mind, which is a really great literalization of how that works.
I love that as a metaphor. Yeah, and it's a great kind of setup for the tension in the third act. You can kind of already tell, like, I don't know about this, Joy. This might not be the best idea.
But again, done out of a place of helping, which parallels her with anxiety.
Of course.
Chekhov's gun.
Jacob. Sorry.
I said Chekhov's gun.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, yeah, I guess like Chekhov's spring, or whatever you want to call that thing. But yes.
All right. So one of the big things about the world building in this movie that I gotta say, at first I was a little bit mixed on, but on a second viewing, I think it works just to distinguish this movie from the first movie. Is we get like a little check-in on the islands of personality. I do like the symbolism of the family island being small but still there and still thriving, and then Friendship Island being the big one. But I also really appreciate that we don't really linger on the islands in this movie. I kind of feel like maybe that's something we can go back to in a potential third movie. But I like the fact
we've never done anything with those islands, though.
What?
We've never really done anything with those islands, though.
Well, I mean, I think the whole first movie kind of hinged on those islands. Like, the whole tension of the first movie was...
No. I'm not saying we didn't I'm not saying we didn't experience like the loss of the islands, or just like the importance of it. I mean, we physically didn't go to those islands.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's what I mean. Like, the only thing we ever did physically going to those islands is like running in terror from them collapsing, or like trampoline in the third act. So you're right. In importance, and we're kind of like hinting at it here, but it's just the fact that we still have never really gone to those islands.
Yeah.
They're purely aesthetic. That's all they really do.
I do kind of wish that there was a little bit more, maybe even just a passing mention of core memories. I feel like the personality, like, oh God, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the actual terminology, but the harp strings.
Yes, I was about to get to that too.
Okay.
So with the world building, we have the sense of self tree.
The sense of self. Yeah, I feel like that very much kind of replaced the core memories, and I kind of wish that there was a little bit done with the core memory thing, considering how big of a part of the first movie it is. But that's a little nitpick,
Well, it's also this, Tiki. I don't think that was an accident. We didn't do the core memory thing because
because the core memories seem like they formed the sense of self, like they're the seeds.
Right. That does make sense. Yeah.
But the other thing, it's less about kind of like memory. It's more about like what's the memory building to? Like how it feeds into the overall thing versus just like we know what she prioritizes, and that's kind of what the first movie was. Well, I shouldn't. We built the kind of the foundation of things with the core memory, so we know what's important, and we've spent the whole movie dealing with that. This is like what's it building to? Like, what's the drive? What's the imperative? That's what the whole sense of self is like. Well, how does Riley see herself based on the core memories?
And I think the sense of self is really well set up to be like something that's going to be in conflict throughout the movie.
Yeah, and I love it. Does feel a little like maybe a bit of a Loki nod, with the the strands.
A little bit, but I think the visuals are really cool.
Obviously, it's its own thing. I'm just saying, I in a good way. I like the whole branch look. It just feels like that was a clever way of kind of doing that. And it does feel a little, it's like it's the strands of personality. Of course, one of the great things with Inside Out with the Mindscape is that it's obviously very kind of stylistic and imaginative, but also by the same token, it's like you can see like from a distance looking down all those shelves of memories and everything. It's the grooves of the brain. So we have stuff like that. So we have like all like the synapses. That's essentially what that's what the whole sense of self branches and like threads kind of look like. They're synapses being connected.
Exactly.
So sometimes there's like a cool kind of like kind of a less gross version of the brain, kind of like aesthetic, kind of an architecture of the brain kind of thing going on there.
But the whole thing is like even more Epcot-y than the first movie.
Yeah.
And I'm honestly kind of astounded that Epcot does not have any sort of Inside Out representation as of now.
Well, because it's not an actual place, though.
No, okay, but is imagination an actual place?
Well, it is, but I'm saying like Riley's head isn't like next to the Italy Pavilion.
Oh my god. Okay, but it doesn't have to be set specifically in Riley. Anyways, I digress.
No, you know what I mean though. It's a fact. It's a human head. It's not a place.
Yeah.
It's cool, but it's you can't go there.
Dragon, the exterior of the attraction probably would not be a human head, my friend.
I don't know. What would the point be? It's supposed to be going inside people's heads.
All right. Anyways, let's see.
Well, the brainstorming, like that's a really cool one too. Like the fact that we see the origin of the light bulbs, where they come from, is like literally like a storm, and so it has some fun puns in the movie too.
I'm just going through some comments here.
I think it's more clever than the Shark Boy and Lava Girls brainstorm.
So what do we think of the recasting of Fear and Disgust? I will say with Disgust, it was an improvement. With all due respect to Mindy Kaling, I don't hate Mindy Kaling the same way some people hate her, but it was an improvement.
I question some of Mindy Kaling's choices, but I like her.
Right.
I don't dislike her. I'm not disgusted by her.
And obviously, we here at So You Want to Be an Imagineer, we stan Bill Hader. So I'm not going to lie, the absence of Bill Hader was a little noticeable for me, but the fact that they definitely gave him a lot more to do than in the first movie kind of made up for it, I think.
And
they
the fact
really
that
gave him some great stuff.
And the fact that it's Tony Hale doing it too.
Yeah.
Hale, great. However, by the same token, the one thing that does hurt is that Bill Hader was a huge Pixar fan, and when he did Inside Out, he flew himself out, and he was in the story room with them, working on Inside Out while he was doing the voice. So that's the thing that kind of bums you out. It's like, oh man, Bill's not there, but
just from exactly. I mean, as we saw with Barry, the dude is kind of a creative genius.
From what I understand, Mindy also worked on the story as well in the original film.
I didn't hear that, but it would not surprise me because she does that kind of thing on other projects that she's on. So not Mindy projects, but just other projects that Mindy Kaling happens to be on. But yes, it's a shame, and from what I understand, it's for kind of like a silly reason. But it's like we ended up still with good people in the roles, and it did like the role of a sound-alike where they should embody that character. But I think Tony Hale's more like we recognize him, we've seen him in other things, of course, Forky. So it's like, hey, at least if we're gonna get anyone in there, Tony Hale, it's pretty solid.
Let's see. Kogias also says Inside Out was Kevin Smith's favorite film of 2015.
There you go.
So yeah, I'm sure he's seen it by now.
Well, that's not a guarantee. Kevin Smith does get preoccupied and a little scatterbrained at times, so it's unclear if he's seen it yet.
All right. Z and K says if we still had the place where Body Wars and Cranium Command is, then having Inside Out would make sense. That would be Wonders of Life, Z and K, and literally Wonders of Life is just sitting there. It's just sitting there collecting dust. They're not doing a goddamn thing with it. If anything, they will occasionally use it for extra festival space. So yeah, Disney, what are you doing? Come on, it's literally right there. Anyways.
All right, so hockey camp.
Yes. So this is probably my biggest hang up with the whole film is right here. I don't necessarily dislike the characters that are involved in this whole drama with Riley's friendship thing and the new friends versus the old friends. And I do find that tension to be pretty relatable. But unfortunately, I think that most of the characters in this section, besides Riley herself, kind of come across as NPCs to me, where there's just enough of their personalities to get who they are, but none of them feel particularly plot relevant. I mean, I guess outside of just not necessarily, obviously they're plot relevant, but I guess we don't really form an attachment to any of these people as an audience, for me personally. Not nearly in the same way as we form an attachment to the parents in the first movie. And that's kind of what this subplot is kind of competing against. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I don't know, man. I did like how Riley and the friends met. I do think it's a little convenient that they all join hockey together, but whatever. That's what friends do at that age. They do stuff together. It's just, you know.
Well, you see, Tiki, when the pennies were on the floor and they're using their fingers to pick them up, is like there was a little bit of a slide, and it made him think, you know what? What if
Right.
I could do this with something larger than a penny, equally as circular, but I could use my
So,
feet and maybe a stick to do so.
and I will say that I actually think that maybe the two friend characters needed just a little bit more screen time, because I was engaged with them in the car when we flashed to their emotions. Like, maybe we should have flashed to the emotions of the friends a little bit more, not overdo it, but maybe have like at least one more time, like get the emotions reaction to Riley, not joining their team or whatever. I just kind of feel like those characters were just kind of at a distance. And Val is definitely a fleshed out character, but literally everyone else, like all the cool kids, they are NPCs. Like, by all means, everyone else in Val's crew, outside of Val herself, is very much an NPC. They are very much there.
Are their names? I don't even know if their names are entirely said like more than once in the movie.
That's what I'm saying, Jacob. Yeah, and you know what? It's not that big of a problem. Like, I'm not expecting
Firehawk 1, Firehawk 2.
Exactly.
Right, yeah.
I mean, I'm not expecting all these characters to get like super well developed personalities or whatever. But when you look at an ensemble Pixar movie, like let's say Monsters Inc. or the original Cars, even those movies have really big casts, and even the characters that don't really have a ton of plot relevance, they still stick with you. Whereas these people, they literally just it's just they're all just copying Val. Maybe that's the gag.
Well,
I don't know.
I mean, considering anxiety, like if we're just like them, we'll fit in.
Yeah, exactly. I do think it's kind of part of the gag. They all have the streaks in their hair.
Mhm.
I mean, literally, their one personality trait with interacting with Riley is just calling her Michigan over and over again.
And then, like, never bothered to correcting it until literally the last scene of the movie.
Right.
Yep.
So yeah, what do y'all think, just in general, about how what I laid out there with the friend characters in the movie on both sides of the fact?
I mean, the friend. I mean, I can kind of see where you call them NPCs. I mean, they're kind of there like to serve the purpose. Like, they're the entourage, Val's entourage, and they're there to make Riley feel like, oh, she's the new kid in town. Like, if I fit in with them, I'll be able to have friends in high school. That kind of, especially considering what's going on with the two friends going to different schools. That kind of thing. So they're there to basically serve that purpose, and I think they do that pretty well, even though he can't remember exactly much else about them.
Dragon, your thoughts?
So it's kind of two things. So one, I think just with the premise and what we've set up with Inside and this, the way we tell this story, again, it's Riley as our core focus, along with all the bunch of characters that are inside our heads. So that's kind of our maximum capacity of characters we can really have, and any characters beyond that extends to, again, a core few, like again, mom and dad in the first movie. Here, we have at least 3 named friends. The rest are just kind of like that. But even so, we didn't really spend a lot of time with mom and dad. We did such a good job in selling them in the moments that we had. Mind you, it's only 2 characters. And it's a family unit, and that story is all about kind of how a family unit's dealing with a move. We're able to literally get in their heads and also just kind of spend time with them and see how it all affects Riley. Riley's picking between 2 sides there. So by that logic, we can't. Again, we're seeing the path she can take. We're not really getting to know the path she can take.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not saying that's necessarily maybe the best call or not, but it just feels like that's on brand for what we've done before, and usually the width of which we can explore the story without adding too many characters. Like, we have
that's
just
fair.
enough
That's fair.
characters. Now, the other thing too is just with that logic, it just feels like that's why it feels like there's like a one per scene. Like in the first movie, the dinner scene is the big scene where, okay, that's when we go into 3 people's heads, and that's as much as we're going to push it. Then at the very end, during kind of our mid-credit scene, kind of our coda, that's our epilogue. That's when we can get in other people's heads and just have fun with it without having it like jammed into our story. Where if we kept doing that with the friends all throughout, then it's like, we're kind of breaking the logic.
I'm not saying all throughout. But I do think, given that we have the big emotional beat of the movie kind of rest with those 2 friend characters, I just kind of feel like we should have gotten a little bit more with them. And I
mean,
honestly don't
maybe,
know
but
what else we could have done.
It just
with
feels
them.
like there's a rule of 2 times per movie. Like we do that gag
Right.
twice during the movie, and the other time's always during like the epilogue. So we had really 1 time per movie, and we did in the car scene, which felt like the right time. And if we see like them in emotional turmoil while Riley's in emotional turmoil, it will water down Riley's emotional turmoil, which will
That's fair.
She's looking at our look.
that's priceless, and that fits like a glove.
Can we just appreciate how disgust is very much like in the forefront this time around? I feel like that's very appropriate for the struggles that Riley's going through, and
Disgust kind of got the shaft to a certain extent last movie.
A little bit. I feel like, and again, one of the things in this movie, like I said, is the fact that even though we greatly expand the cast of characters in the emotion front, I feel like each one of them gets a more balanced overall screen time than in the first movie.
Especially considering the first movie's focus was joy and sadness.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I'm saying like the first movie we're very much focused on joy and sadness. I feel like anger is kind of like the leader in the other section, but it's really just kind of like those 3 emotions kind of like working as a group. There's not really a ton separating them as far as actual, character traits go. Anyways. So yeah, the hockey thing is fine. I kind of feel like maybe, and this is just kind of me just, I don't even, like maybe it could have taken place over the course of a full summer instead of a weekend. I don't know.
Well, again, look at the first movie though. We had, I believe, it doesn't feel like we had a full week because I can't tell because of Riley's wardrobe because the whole thing is that the moving truck hasn't shown up yet. We're really showing that this is not going well. That's why she wants to go back to Minnesota. So I'm thinking that might have also been like a 2-day thing, but I'd have to 2 to 3 days tops.
You're probably right. Yeah.
Remember, we had like her go to sleep like
I think it was at least 3 days because you have the moving day, you have the day where she goes to school, and then I think it's at least a few.
We had the course of a week. I don't think we reached the full week though, but I don't recall. But yeah. So the point being, it's we're going to hockey camp, but again, we do this over like a 2-day period, and of course, in doing so, it's demo day. Now, demo day means we pay off the puberty button, which is hilarious, and I love that we set that up at the end of the first movie, and then we're like, oh god, the alarm is going off. There's Chekhov's biological clock. The alarm clock is going off, ladies and gentlemen. Run for the hills.
I love how Joy uses the back of the mind vault to throw the button.
It's a relatable parent joke, and I love it. Trying to put it to the back of the girl's minds, So, it's a big shakeup. It's an emotional roller coaster of sorts, and we've built the thing. I love how we build the things too. Like initially the console's overly sensitive. I love that joke. I love the fact that I barely touched it.
And then they're like, I barely touched it. That's what I said. And of course, making Riley go like, why did you interrupt me? Oh, I'm the worst.
I'm so disgusting.
And then the mom's like, oh, you're not disgusting, honey. And then,
but then the emotions are like, yeah, she really does stink.
Actually, I just realized something. Tiki, we actually did kind of break that rule. I think we went in there twice.
What do you mean?
Because I forgot that we did the friends in the car, and then we had
you're right, with the mother, yeah.
Well, that's a preview for the next 10 years.
There you go. All right. All right, so
we have to make room for the new guys.
New guys.
And of course, coming with a bunch of emotional baggage is anxiety.
Oh my god, I love the emotional baggage gag.
We should probably do kind of like a roll call on our new emotions.
All right.
First off, obviously, we have anxiety, the new main emotion of the one that gets the most focus of the new emotions.
So great design right off the bat. Looks very Muppety in terms of like a chaotic kind of.
Specifically, she looks like a Fraggle.
What's funny about that too is the fact that Pete Docter, a lot of love for the Muppets, and we've seen that throughout Monsters Inc. with we have Frank Oz in that movie, and we also have a lot of the monster designs.
I mean, we have Frank Oz and Dave Goelz in this movie,
which was my point,
and Kirk Thatcher as well.
Yeah, exactly. We have a lot
Where's
of great
Dave?
What?
Where's Dave in this movie?
I think he's one of like the guards or something.
But yeah, Tiki, you remember? Like they brought back the two cops that were, it's the one with the mustache and the one with like Dave Goles' hair, and they're like,
okay.
"It's my hat." No, it's my hat. It says written right here, my hat.
Right,
That's
right,
my
yeah.
hat. That's them, and they came back. They put him in the vault in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, Dave Goles was there during the whole "It's Cloud Town," Jake. He got the line. He called him Jake.
Got it.
Anyway, Muppet love aside, but yes, anxiety very Fraggle-esque, as Tiki put it. Big element of the film is anxiety, who not a villain, but definitely the antagonist. Definitely.
Which I think is such a smart. Like I am just in awe of how nuanced her role is in this movie. She is very much the antagonistic force, but she's never doing anything out of pure malice.
Kind of like she's actually kind of like a darker version of how Joy was.
Exactly. And honestly, some people have kind of argued, and I would even kind of sign off on this, although I think that with anxiety, it's more blatant, but I do think that Joy is a little bit of an antagonist in the first movie, especially with how she treats Sadness.
Well, okay, so I want to use that as a springboard. That and the anxiety talk is springboard for my favorite aspect of the Inside Out movies, period. Especially the first one. I love the causal relationship between Riley and the emotions, and not just like how the emotions are piloting Riley, more so the opposite. I love how the emotions' actions are coming from an unknown place. So the best example I can think of is in the first movie. The big moment where sadness and joy get separated from the rest of the emotions is they set up like, no, if sadness touches the core memories or any of the memories, they're going to turn sad. And they keep telling her, sadness, don't do this. Stand in the sadness circle, yada yada. And sadness is like she's making Riley cry in class by pushing the button. And it's like, sadness, why are you doing it? And the fact that she doesn't know why. And she's like, I don't know why I'm doing this. Like, that's what I love about Inside Out, is that there's kind of a chicken and the egg sort of thing here.
Right, totally.
It's like, I love it. Adds so much great subtext to why is this happening? We have
are the emotions controlling Riley, or is Riley controlling the emotions?
And we have bags of that with anxiety here. Where anxiety is this powerful, overwhelming feeling, and again, villainous in terms of the scope of control that she has. Like, think about it. Anxiety, at first, again, seems harmless, seems like, oh, hey, I'm so nervous, I want to make a good impression and everything. And later on, it's like, hey, I found sadness, and I'm going to take that phone from her, like the nicest way possible. We're going to take sadness, we're going to put her in a bucket and suspend her, like, on top of the room like a chandelier. Anxiety can bulldoze whoever she wants, because again, no one can argue with her logic almost, or like there's like an unspoken power there, because again, that's anxiety. Anxiety is a domineering emotion.
But the thing
but not bad, not ill-intended.
What makes it interesting is that Joy is actually taking what she learned previously, and it's like saying, okay, no, anxiety, this is not how you do things with Riley.
Yes, and that's the struggle of Joy in the first movie they had, is that Joy, before they really balanced it in the writing, again, having to be so happy all the time and would have to be logically annoyed that all these other ones aren't falling in line. Joy could be an overwhelming, or like a super passive aggressive character, which they had to dial back, and they found a nice balance for it. But that is also why you pair her with sadness throughout that movie.
Mm-hmm.
And Jacob's absolutely right. We're doing kind of a thing. It's like, we're taking what Joy has learned. Joy is evolving as a character, much like Riley is evolving as a character. But we're personifying this through the battle of Joy going up against anxiety. These two, it's oil and water, but they are in service of the same thing. Anxiety is the promise that joy will come one day, but not yet. So I don't want to get rid of Joy, but I need Joy off to the side and in the vault, and we'll get her when I'm ready, when I'm sure everything's going to go right, which is a never-ending battle.
The problem is anxiety herself points out, like, it could be tomorrow, it could be next week, it could be next year, it could be never.
Exactly. So that's fascinating. That's what I love about that.
So the opposite of joy and anxiety, I think, is the single biggest laugh in the whole movie for me. Fear's line of like, oh, we are going to be friends.
I was about to bring up, I love how Fear was like, it's like, And he constantly kept bringing it up too. It's like, well, anxiety would have had a plan for this. Like, well, she's not here, is she?
What's great about that too is that in pairing joy with the other emotions, and also just like joy in contrast to anxiety, is fear was one of the initial pairings. That was they went through a lot of pairings of okay, originally it was going to be joy being separated from everyone. Then it's like, okay, we got to make it a buddy movie. So they used like a prototype of sadness before they ended up on kind of sadness as we know her. And then it was like, okay, let's pair it with fear. So as I'm saying, so fear was for the longest time, fear was kind of locked in there before sadness. So it just feels like anxiety is like the nuanced fear that they got a lot more mileage out of. And I think that's why ultimately pairing joy with fear couldn't quite go the way it went, because sadness is more opposite of joy in that first movie.
Mm-hmm.
And here, like, we kind of we take that idea from the first movie and we kind of perfect, okay, maybe instead of pairing with like one singular emotion, we pair with the group so we can kind of shine, give those guys do something we didn't do in the first movie. Those three characters were separated from joy and sadness. We're going to pair them together and see how joy is rallying the team, but also allowing them to kind of shine a little bit.
And give them more opportunities to play off each other.
Yeah.
All right.
So this. Yeah,
right.
That's exactly.
In addition to anxiety, we're also introduced to envy.
So envy, a Bear alumni, Tiki.
Oh yes, I know. Yeah. I'm very well aware.
Yep.
Can Ayo Edebiri just be the new Awkwafina, please?
It'd be refreshing.
Why?
Because she's just a really genuinely good voice actress, and I think she could be in everything and actually have a different performance each time.
So like Awkwafina, got it.
Well,
are you serious, Jacob? No, I don't even want to get into it, but no, Awkwafina literally plays the same character every time. I don't want to fight about that.
Except in Quiz Lady.
Sure.
The one exception. I just want to clarify.
Like, even if it's not the same character, it's very much the same kind of style of delivery. I don't know. Okay. I don't even know what to say about that. But I mean,
envy though. I like how envy kind of envies disgust a bit. Just like it's like, I love your hair, and just so essentially, envy is desire in a sense. The reason envy is valuable in kind of like our new set of emotions, and the fact that I love that each of our emotions is a natural progression. They are emotions that Riley would need to function in this new stage of life. Where envy is sort of like it helps divine what Riley wants. Like, to see what she wants, she's going to be envious of others, and if anxiety is there, that means there's an insecurity there, and if there's an insecurity there, anxiety's lieutenant would be envy. Like, we want this, I'm going to worry about this. When we don't get it, embarrassment's going to is going to hit that button for us, and ennui's going to be, when we have no idea what to say, ennui will be our mouthpiece. It's a nice little ecosystem we have in the brain.
The funny thing is, admittedly, anxiety is more receptive to like the other ideas than joy was.
Yeah.
Like, she's like open to ideas from ennui and envy more than joy was to like sadness.
That's actually a good point. Yeah, that is a good. I didn't even really think about that.
We called it out beautifully in the movie where they say they call joy delusional. It says, "Of course I'm delusional. I'm joy." It's my whole point.
I will say one plot thing with Joy really quick I want to get into that it's not really that big of an issue, but it did kind of bug me from a pacing point of view, is I kind of feel like Joy had two different breaking points in the movie when she only really needed one.
I think I know what you're talking about. Are you talking about when she's like spelling out that she's Joy and everyone's kind of like, okay, we're going to follow
Yeah. I mean, it's like, it's not that that's a bad scene. It's just that I feel like obviously the whole like, so this is what it's like to grow up. You feel less joy. Like, that's obviously the more impactful scene, And I almost kind of feel like they should have like slowly, ironically enough, I feel like they should have built up Joy's anxiety over the course of the movie and then had it kind of let out.
I'm with you to an extent, Tiki. Well, yeah, it sounds like we're on the same page. It's a good scene, but you're right. We are kind of double dipping a bit. Yeah.
I mean, I think it kind of works. I personally think it works more because, like, at that point, like, it lets the other emotions like voice their frustrations to what Joy's have and all the setbacks they've had. So it's like, and that basically gets them, rally with her as well. And that's my 2 cents on it anyway.
Sure. Regardless, I love Joy's dilemma in the movie though, where it does feel very much like how can she exist where the anxiety seems to have it all. Anxiety seems to definitely have a foothold on things, and it's like Joy seeing that. Okay, so if anxiety is having this much autonomy and we're being put to the side this much, it is making her question her lot and things like maybe I failed. Essentially, maybe I failed my job. Maybe Riley's not going to be happy again.
Yeah, that. So, seeing Joy like that, I mean, and does touch upon how people do feel in reality too. Like, it's like and it touches on it. Joy doesn't necessarily have to disappear as you grow up either. It just becomes more nuanced and balanced out with other complex emotions as well.
So let's talk about a non-complex. Let's talk about ennui.
Ennui, I think, is probably the biggest, the biggest source of comedy in the movie. The animation on her when it's like she barely moves, but when she just like slinks around and just the vocal delivery, it's all priceless.
I like that Ennui's just wearing socks the whole movie too. I like that.
What's interesting to me is that is the fact that at first the fact that she can control the motherboard or the console from her app or from a phone. Yeah. It initially seems like a joke, but it actually becomes kind of an important plot point later on.
Yeah, but again, Ennui essentially is the representation of the glib teenager and the source of sarcasm, which of course creates a sarcasm.
I love the sarcasm.
Oh, we're so happy to see you.
It's like, wow, those guys are jerks.
And that's why John Ratzenberger left. It's like, you know what? I'm going to Monsters at Work. No one appreciates me here.
It's always good. She's on in profile 3/4 angle, never forward.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Yeah.
Well, yeah, her nose is going to disappear. That's why.
So yeah, it's like Ennui was kind of interesting how that turned out. Didn't really do much in terms of
the overall. What the hell? Why is it so? Oh, sorry guys, hold on.
All right.
Minor tangent. I'm sorry, DJ. Go on.
As I was saying, Ennui, probably had the least plot contributions in the overall movie, except for probably providing the means for Sadness to remotely control the panel later on. But I think Ennui, like I said, I still like kind of Ennui, the design and everything, and of course, as Tiki pointed out, a big source of comedy as well. Yeah. Because everybody knows teenage boredom is yeah, sure.
So embarrassment, our boy, Walter Hauser.
My boy.
Barely in it, but yeah, he makes it count though.
Yeah, he's making those sounds, Tiki.
I know he is.
He's in the booth. He came in. But yeah, so he's
okay, guys, what do you want me to do? We need you to muffle into your hands,
okay, Paul, can you put on a hoodie for us? Okay, what do you want me to do with it? See those strings? Yeah.
No, I mean that's the thing though, is that the actual physicality of embarrassment is very Paul Walter Hauser. I'm sure they probably had him do some modeling like that.
Yeah. And you're only gonna have one actual line of dialogue in this movie.
So I think it's interesting that he befriends Sadness because, again, there's a causal link there where embarrassment and sadness do kind of go hand in hand. Therefore, they would be friends or they would have a camaraderie.
I do kind of like how each one of the emotions warms up to the others. Obviously envy and disgust, and obviously anxiety, obviously sadness and embarrassment. He's like, "Hi, big fella," and even Joy seems happy to receptive of embarrassment at first.
Well, I mean, look, Joy likes everyone. It doesn't really count.
Yeah, I know, but obviously, anxiety rubbed her more the wrong way than the others did.
Oh yeah, because she shoved her in a jar and put her in prison. Essentially.
I know. Drew.
So we need to talk about some of the stuff. We obviously need to talk about the vault. We need to talk about
nostalgia.
Yeah, that's we didn't even talk about Tiki. We didn't even talk about nostalgia.
I mean, you know what? Nostalgia is one of those things I really At a certain point, I feel like this movie was way too over-marketed because I feel like a lot of the better concepts in this movie did get spoiled by some of the marketing.
But Tiki, did you remember nostalgia? Remember that one time nostalgia came in? Oh wait, no, I'm jumping ahead.
I didn't even really look at the marketing, so I didn't even know.
I mean, the only thing I knew about nostalgia going into is I heard June Squibb was in the movie. I think there was like
I actually saw a thumbnail with a clip, so I knew the design, like, and that was unfortunate for me to just stumble upon that without even seeking out a trailer or
Well, I
anything.
didn't see the look. I just saw when they had like the initial teaser or whatnot. They had like all the emotions playing real quick, and they like listed them in like a color, like like nostalgia was like a gray, and like went by like nostalgia, anxiety, nostalgia, embarrassment. So that's all I really got. I had no idea what she looked like. Say, oh my god, that's nostalgia! Wow, it's June Squibb.
She's got a real grandma SpongeBob energy to her.
Yeah, a little Marion Ross energy.
yeah.
Okay, so yeah. Point being, we suppress the emotions, put them in a bottle, put them in the vault where you see all the deeply suppressed and kind of vaulted secrets of Riley Anderson, including her love of things that, again, nostalgic things. One could say that she's kind of ashamed of,
including her classic video game crush.
Yes. Oh god, the early 2000s video game, Lance Slashblade.
Yeah, just the animation on his fucking like finishing move is just absolutely incredible.
So, yeah, what's great about this vault is that we had these great different styles of animation, which we did toy around with very briefly in the first Inside Out movie with the whole like abstract folks. So it's really great to kind of see, man, they doubled down here. With Bluefy was insane to me. Like, oh my god. Yes. It's Ron Funches. Yeah, okay, clearly there is one downside to Bluefy. I'm not saying that he is not fun. I like Bluefy, but I'm saying Bluefy does feel maybe like we're checking the big bong box just a little bit. Little bit.
I don't know. I
said a little bit.
I didn't even really get Bing Bong at all with that one.
No, I'm saying that we have like the friendly, very childish sort of like character that would.
I feel like if we were trying to do a Bing Bong thing with him, that they would actually like have him through the movie more. But he's very much a joke.
We did bring back his companion. We did bring back.
Yeah, and an even bigger joke.
All I'm saying is, I could see from a distance, perhaps.
Just the image of anger, fucking like reaching down that fucking pouch's throat.
I love taking the pot shots at Dora the Explorer, like the whole who's talking to?
He's
and just seeing him as like a crazy person talking to the wall, like that's priceless.
And then like I was like, I don't like this any more than you guys do. Pouch.
Z and K says my favorite detail with Bluefy is when he leaves, he doesn't walk away, he slides away like someone's poorly moving his animation.
Love it. Oh boy, and of course we all love Ron Funches.
I mean, it's like Dora the Explorer meets TV Hanna-Barbera.
There you go. A little bit of Goofy in there too, a little bit.
Yeah.
So, I love that Disgust has a crush on Lance Slashblade. His video game crush. He's kind of heartthrobby, but I love the big trade-off. He's got a lame finishing move. However, the lame finishing move is portrayed awesomely as it saves the day.
Yes.
Move, it's like this domino effect.
I just think of all people that it's a Disgust that has the thing for Lance Slashblade.
Yes, I like that. I think my headcanon is that he's so, it's something that initially it's like so disgusting. It's kind of anathema to her, where it's like there's a disgust there. There's like a shame of like, why do I like him the way I do? It's like this cheesy video game character with a lame move, but there's something so appealing about him. I mean, he's in there. So again, there's like a disgust of like he's in that vault for a reason to discuss. And by the same logic, it's like, well, still, I do kind of like he's the guilty pleasure of disgust. Like he's completely outdated where the world is now, technology wise, with the smartphone and everything.
It's almost like it's disgusting, but she likes it.
Yes.
Also, so then we have
Dark Secret.
Yeah, the Deep Dark Secret. Probably my biggest disappointment in the whole movie. I really, really, really didn't like that it just was a cheap gag at the end credits. I thought You know what I thought for sure it was going to be?
You thought it was going to pay something off in the third act, didn't you?
Well, specifically, I thought for sure it was going to be that Riley had a crush on a girl.
Really?
That's for sure. That's what I thought it was going to be.
Well, we had like the Mount Rushmore of the boys, though.
No, I understand that, but I don't know. It's just the way she idolized Val, I guess. Maybe.
There is a huge difference between idolization and being in love.
All right. Well, look, I'm not saying love. There's a huge difference between having a crush and being in love. So don't.
Okay, look. Regardless, I also for a moment when Deep Dark, how can you not? When Deep Dark Secret gets introduced and he looks that cool, you're gonna think we're gonna see him again. Perhaps in the third act, like we're gonna pay that guy off. Maybe.
I pretty much knew he was gonna be the post credits gag. I'm just very disappointed that it ended up being like literally nothing.
I caught on at a certain point he wasn't going to show up, but
I mean, I'm personally kind of glad it was just a cheap gag. Like, oh, it's a deep dark secret. Oh, we're gonna be. Oh, it's just this innocuous thing that she's.
But to me, it doesn't even make sense why he'd be in the vault, or I don't know. That thing for me personally just did not pay off. And I guess maybe I'm a little bitter because I waited through the entire credits. I don't know.
Well, it's not like you had anything better to do.
Well, I know. I just I specifically was like, oh boy, what's going to be the big dark secret? And it's literally nothing.
Well, regardless, I will mention this with Deep Dark Sea. I love his design, and I'm not trying to take away from it, but it's the fact that Paul Walter Hauser is in this movie. Little similar to Dark from Orion in the Dark, just a little bit.
Yeah. I hear that.
I'm not saying it's a problem. I'm not faulting him.
It's probably not. It's probably not intentional either.
No, of course,
I'm sure they were in development around the same time.
Yes, I know it's not intentional.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to take away from. I'm just saying it was a little distracting.
The presence of Paul Walter Hauser is definitely.
That's what I'm saying. If he weren't in this movie, I wouldn't put together. It's fact he's in this movie. We have him, and it's just on my mind. That's all I'm saying. It was reminiscent of it. It was a timing issue. Okay, let's see. So we separate our emotions again. We take sadness out of the equation, put her in the command. She's befriending embarrassment, etc. We're avoiding a repeat of the first film with like joy and sadness back in the saddle again. Imagination Land was a great sequence. Where we go there.
Imagination Land is straight up my favorite sequence in the film. I think it's expertly well done.
Oh, yeah.
I love the concept of anxiety taking over your imagination and filling your imagination with like just hypothetical scenarios. I have absolutely been there.
And how it's represented by like an old-timey overstaffed animation.
Yes, that's fucking awesome.
I was geeking out about that so much of the world. Like, oh my god, these are the cards, just like the cubicles. Oh my.
I just generally speaking, one thing I do want to say, I kind of brought it up a little bit when I praised how little the islands are involved in this movie, but just generally speaking, I think this movie is so smart with what stuff to call back to, what stuff to leave. For example, we never hear about Bing Bong, which is very appropriate. Bing Bong is gone. We never hear anyone, we never have nostalgia be like, remember Bing Bong? It's like, no, Bing Bong is literally
we do
exist from Riley's mind. We cannot retcon that.
We do have a great reprise of Triple Dent Gumbo.
Yes, but we don't overdo it though. It's just one time, specifically when they're trying to search for music stuff.
I know, which is great, which makes sense. It would come back then.
Yeah.
It's like there's nothing in here but jingles.
So just generally, yeah, that's true. We didn't see jingles. So just generally speaking, I think this movie is one of the better sequels when it comes to that. Just, using key stuff like Imagination Land, the way that's used is genius. It was a key thing in the first movie, and I feel like it's an even bigger location in this movie, but it also expands stuff. It's so good. And then also, I just want to acknowledge.
DNK just pointed out we do see Bing Bong that has a model of him on Joy's nightstand.
Okay, well there you go. I didn't even notice that. That's a
cute. Yeah, it's a cute little reference.
And the fact that only Joy would know who he even is at that point makes sense.
And the fact that he saved Joy majorly, so that was it's cute.
Take her to the moon for me.
Jacob, don't make us cry during this podcast.
ZNK says, we give flowers to the other team.
I love
like,
it.
Anger's like, what? I can't just be the rage guy. It's like I can't be just the rage guy.
Well, yeah. So Tiki was right. Where it's a fact that it's again the imagination running wild via anxiety. So it's like she's like having up all these what if scenarios drawn up, which in turn is punishing Riley. Riley's not getting sleep. She's tossing and turning because of all the anxiety and stuff.
And so Joy has them actually make happy thoughts.
That's nice.
So that is just like, it's such a good illustration of like when you're tossing and turning in bed and that kind of like mental sort of literal battle that's going on in your mind. You know what I mean?
I mean, if dreams are kind of like a movie studio represented in the mind, then these kind of scenarios make sense to have them represented as an animation studio.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Another thing I want to praise the movie for, and this is a trap that sequels fall into just time and time again. I'm sorry, Dragon. I know I'm always harsh on this movie, but looking at you, Incredibles 2, is we do not split up the main cast. At least the core emotions. We do have sadness interacting with the new emotions, but I really love the fact that joy, anger, fear, and disgust are all on this journey together, and even sadness is there for about half of that journey. And I feel like that's so refreshing because usually with sequels, like, you know, as much as I love Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, I do think that looking back on the trilogy as a whole, it is probably my least, like, it's still awesome, but it's probably ranked 3 of 3 in that trilogy, specifically because I'm not huge on how the Guardians get so broken up through that movie. And it's like a lot of, like, all the subplots are really good, but, you know, you kind of miss a little bit of that team camaraderie there that you clearly get in Volume 3, in spite of the fact that in Volume 3, Rocket's out of commission for most of it. So yeah, I really, really appreciate that they avoided that pitfall and really kept the group together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, let's see. Okay, so the quest for firehawkdom and the quest for self that's going on here. So our emotions are looking for the sense of self. They got jettisoned to the far back regions of the mind. But by the way, favorite detail, and I love it's like that thing where it's like the one logic hole of Inside Out. It's like, why didn't joy and sadness climb to the top of the shelves?
Yeah.
We ultimately, our reason being here, even so, the still
we agree to never bring that up again. Yeah, sure.
I love it. It's like, you know, like we had like the cherry picker thing, but Joy has no idea how to operate the cherry picker thing, so they had to improvise with the reverse.
And that's the moment that I was talking about, right? That's the first like Joy doubting herself moment.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, we could have a moment of her doubting herself. I just think that it gets a little overplayed, considering we're basically gonna repeat the sentiment later on.
Well, it's not so much that as we have two moments in competition for each other, both good moments. Right. Just like one, it's good. I'm not saying it undercuts what we do later, but I'm just saying, you know.
I think if anything, what we do later undercuts this.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Regardless, you know. So let's think. So Riley is going down a path of being not herself without you know, like the I'm a good person core belief, and we reveal everything. So we reveal everything anxiety's been building to ultimately is I'm not good enough, and I love anxiety's reaction to this. This is brilliant.
Basically, the entire time, anxiety like, yes, keep putting this stuff in. There's like basically only putting the the anxious ones that that yourself created into that pool.
And one of my favorite visual elements. One of my favorite visual elements of this movie is the orange, like lightning bolt style strings that pop up.
Mm-hmm.
We have Lucas Calderon. I hope I'm saying that last name right. He's saying
Calderon.
Calderon. He says, "Just want to say that I love how the movie uses how the movie uses the color of orange." So yeah, the lightning bolt things are a good example of that. Another good example of that is the eerie shade of orange in the pillow fort.
Yeah. And then the moment, the clincher, as we all pointed out, as you guys pointed out, was like when the anxiety tree formed,
Mm-hmm.
and Riley's thoughts was, "I'm not good enough," and anxiety's like, "What?"
This is me doing my color theory, my Daredevil color theory thing again, so bear with me, okay? When you boil down anxiety, the color of orange is perfect because it's nearing danger. It is the anxiety over we're nearing something bad.
Yeah, that's a good point for sure.
So I just love that with the color of like in that room and just in general with anxiety. It's like a no brainer, but it's like it could have had a V8 moment, I'm sure, in the story room where it's like, well, what color do we assign to these emotions? Or envy kind of wants to be this, kind of wants to be a disguster. It's kind of like looking at this, perhaps it's like like a shade aside from like kind of shade the building to green, perhaps, and all these others.
Pink makes sense for embarrassment because it looks like blushing.
Yep, makes all the sense in the world. Okay, we just don't care. So let's give her any color. No, I'm kidding, but I'm just saying with the ennui.
I feel like she's just kind of got that traditional like hot topic look.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think that you're actually right about that. I'm just joking. Yeah. but yeah. So anxiety. I love it when we have like a theory, like a logic applied to the colors. So that's cool. Anyway, so anxiety has, but a lot of people, the comparison has been made that joy and anxiety are kind of like parents with different approaches to raising the kid, which I think was a really good insight of that. Unintentionally, you have a parent that's trying to do the best for their kid, but they ended up corrupting the kid or like making them anxiety ridden in this case.
And I will say that, not to give out any personal details, of course, but I am in an anxiety support group. And that happens time and time again, Dragon. That is a very common thread with people who suffer from anxiety issues.
You mean you sneak into your coach's office and you look at the hockey tryouts?
Well, we'll get into that. That I found to be one of the most relatable things in the movie. But no, I'm talking specifically about parents that are trying to steer you in the right direction, but really they end up fucking you up.
There you go.
Yeah. But the coach thing, let's talk about that because...
we got to talk about who the coach is real quick.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Yvette Nicole Brown. It's Helen from Drake and Josh.
Oh, God.
Sorry. Go on with your point.
Yeah, so I really, not ready yet. Those 3 words fucking broke my heart just as much as they broke Riley's heart. I honestly, I love how it's like she didn't do anything in particular, and there was nothing that she could have done. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this was before she maimed people during the tryout.
Exactly.
This is just when she screwed up.
Which I will say, I do like the note that the ending goes out on, but I think it's a little bit too much of a kind of like, okay, like the stakes of the movie got wrapped up a little too cleanly.
Well, they didn't say she might have been good not getting on the team. I don't know.
You really think that was it, though? I don't know.
I don't think that was it, but I don't know. They kept it ambiguous.
I feel like they should have had it be a little bit more ambiguous than it was, but we'll get into that.
We shouldn't have had her smile. We should have had her just like, huh.
Yeah, we'll get into it. We'll get into it.
Yeah, all right.
Because generally speaking, I do like the ending. But
however, speaking of the coach, something we do have to mention, because this is something I'm sure you really appreciated. I love the moment where the big thing that kind of lulls us into a false sense of security with anxiety before the worm turns is the scene where anxiety is trying to of course, Maya Hawke doing a great job. I just want to shout her out too. She did a really good job as anxiety.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think Maya Hawke is kind of she's really coming into her own. I'm really excited for her.
A big thing that helps anxiety, because otherwise it's going to telegraph everything far too early, is anxiety does have a point. She does have a purpose, which we do obviously find out by the end of the movie, is that she is trying to nudge Joy and just say, let me step in here for a bit. And Joy's overly happy with her and making the choice, hey, let's reunite with our buddies, and we're gonna make goofy faces on the phone and everything during the big okay, class, settle down. It's that's a genuine anxiety. That to me was my relatable anxiety moment right there. The thing of if someone says quiet down, you want to make sure, okay, no, we don't want to be the
okay. So let's talk about that. Let's that is an element to the movie in general. I think we should focus on a little bit. Dragon, I know that you're not the biggest fan of this movie, so I'm not sure how much you're going to agree with this. And I don't necessarily think it's a 1-for-1 comparison myself, But I've heard a couple people say that this movie is essentially like, as far as how it's like almost like wall to wall situations that give you like the secondhand anxiety, or at the very least give you a little bit of cringe. It's almost like the movie is a little bit in that kind of like uncut gem space of like just anxiety is like such a major part of the actual like building blocks of what the movie is.
Right. I see what you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah. But I do think that is one of the more effective things about how, you know, the characters in the hockey camp, they might not be the best fleshed out, but we do have really fleshed out and realistic situations that Riley gets herself into with this.
Yeah, and I like that anxiety kind of puts the Band-Aid on it, where like she kind of apologizes in kind of the anxiety, ingratiating, kind of anxious way that some people find endearing, and that's like, okay, you know, like Valentina, she's cool with us now. So that kind of says, okay, Joy's like, okay, maybe anxiety does have a point, but then anxiety, you know, she kind of runs a wild with it, and that's where we get our movie from. But yeah.
All right, Lucas is saying Riley's hockey jersey is orange also, and I visually appreciate the anxiety attack. We will get into the anxiety attack.
Gotta get into that.
But yeah, I didn't even really. You're right. The foghorn, the foghorns mascot in particular, the Cubert looking thing, is orange. Yeah,
it's like, wait, is that Cubert?
Very Cubert. That can't entirely.
Pretty much like as close as you can get to Cubert without it actually being Cubert.
Well, it can't be an accident that it looks like Cubert. You know, it's obviously it's a combination of Cubert and the Phillies mascot. That's what it's a combination of.
Right.
Anyway, so let's see. So the unofficial tryout, you know, Riley, you know, she's so anxious. She's been like, you know, skating all night. She's been honing her craft, and the result is, and I love that everyone said like this isn't really like an official. I forget what there's something that like a scrimmage. I think it's called scrimmage. Anyway, so they have like the scrimmage. And it's more of just like kind of like a fun kind of thing where just maybe we're seeing like room for improvement and stuff where Riley is taking it to be. She's her anxiety is off the charts here of like this is our shot, and if we don't do this, you know, we're doomed. So, you know, Riley's not being a team player because of this, and she ends up
she's not it starts off as just simply not passing to her teammates.
And
then it basically becomes unchecked aggression.
Yep, she's taking the puck, and then she she slams into, I think, Grace.
Yeah.
So she ends up in the penalty box, the sin bin, to put Jesse
which is a good callback to the beginning of the movie. Like, it's like, okay, that could be a problem, but now it's like, oh my god, it's like a result of anxiety overstepping.
And this was a central thing we kept going back to for the whole movie, where we had like the one of the memories of you know, like going to the penalty box. You know, it's like Riley being kind of put there for
I feel like that moment is basically this movie's equivalent to the first movie's her breakdown during the first day of school.
Oh yeah. No, for sure.
It's the first step of her being like more than just I am a good person kind of thing.
Right, exactly, yeah.
It's like she's a good person, but she's also competitive. She wants to win. She sometimes feels happy, she sometimes feels alone, that kind of thing.
We got to give kudos to Pixar for the ultimate message of the movie, which is, you know, we got to embrace the failures and kind of the imperfections.
And that anxiety is a part of life, but you shouldn't let it overtake you.
It would have been disingenuous to like, you know, like we're gonna lock you in the vault now, anxiety. Mwahaha, you know.
Well, I mean, that would have just totally flown in the face of the first movie's message.
You're like, how do you like the evil Fraggle lady? Get out of here! Yeah.
Okay, but let's talk about. Well, before we get into the anxiety attack, I do want to make one more kind of thing. Is I really love how in the first movie the big kind of like point of no return is Riley getting on the bus. And in this movie, I would say the point of no return is the red streak.
Yep.
When we see that red streak in her hair, we're like, oh shit. Okay, yeah, this is going to be like kind of a defining moment in her life to a certain extent.
Oh no, has Riley joined a gang? First she goes to Oakland, now she joins a gang.
And it didn't even really work well on her head either. That's
It's Kool-Aid.
yeah, it's cool. She didn't drink the Kool-Aid. She just wore it on her in her hair.
Right, exactly.
You got me. There's a little symbol. She's drinking the Kool-Aid now. Well, she's dyeing her hair with the Kool-Aid.
You know what? One thing I do appreciate though is that like Val in particular is not a mean person at all. In fact, she is quite warm to Riley in spite of Riley kind of very much showing a certain level of cringe, you know?
It's more her friends that aren't too receptive to Riley at first.
Right, yeah, but I don't know. That's the thing, Jacob, is I honestly kind of feel like maybe the friends could have been a little bit more antagonistic than they were, because I feel like it only kind of matters in the one scene at the beginning where they're doing the laps, you know, and they're all mad at Riley for that. But after that, I kind of feel like the friends warm up to Riley pretty quick.
I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I mean, like, if they were antagonistic throughout the movie, that kind of like would have like ruined the whole point, I think.
And it would have been like, why is Val, a girl who is seemingly a good person, hanging out with these people?
Yeah, that's why I think it was a good idea not to have them be antagonistic. Like, obviously they'd be upset at Riley for having to do those drills in the first place, but after like she like, you know, warmed up to Val and everything, and Val warmed up to Riley, I mean, I think it makes sense for them not to do so.
Yeah, I feel you. All right, so let's get into the panic attack, man.
Yeah. Okay, so
anxiety attack.
There you go.
I'm sorry. For me, it's a straight up panic attack. I mean, I know that anxiety is like the root cause of it, but
I just mean like this sounds better too. Cause
yeah, you're right.
Like, that's why. But yeah.
So all I can say to this is move over, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, because we have a new best depiction of panic attack in an animated film on our hands.
Hold my anxiety.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh man, his beard's all sweaty. It feels so anxious. Yeah. So. I think we're all head over heels for this genius idea.
And I honestly feel really freaking stupid for not calling that this was going to be the climax.
Right? Oh, I had this.
Of course, a fucking panic attack was going to be the climax.
I mean, tell me if you had this. Okay, you're watching the movie. It's like we're hitting the buttons so well here, and we're having so much fun doing this other stuff. Like, you know, we're going to the imagination land with the animators and everything, and we're seeing like the big moment of like, oh, I'm not good enough, and like we're so caught up in what's going on with anxiety there, and all this is going on. Like, you don't realize until the second she steps into that penalty box, like, oh God, we're gonna. It's like should have been under her nose the whole time.
Exactly. Yeah.
How stupid are we? We've been so wrapped up and enamored by it. It
well,
was
not only was it an anxiety attack, it's like I'm assuming it's Riley's first anxiety attack.
Yeah.
Full blown anxiety.
Yeah.
Which, that's a big moment. I honestly don't even really remember what my first one was, but it's, you know, especially if you're not expecting it, if you're not expecting that kind of level of brain chemistry to kick in, it's crazy.
And of course, like anxiety is like I can fix this, and like, you know, like basically creating like a whirlwind where she can't even escape.
Just visually, it's just amazing. I love the visual of it, and I think visually it's like kind of a perfect representation of what actually goes on in the brain during an anxiety
It gets even better than that. Just the vortex, man. It's the tension, the vortex, and all that. It's the fact that when
the fact that when Joy even goes into the vortex, like she like anxiety's there, but she can't even touch anxiety because it was.
I love the visual that anxiety's there, but she's frozen in place in spite of the vortex.
So yeah, that's the thing. So
the thing is, Joy can't even touch her, even because of that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Reagan.
Yeah, so I love that, you know, anxiety is much like someone would feel during an anxiety attack, or just kind of having that super anxious feeling. She's frozen in the storm of anxiety, paralyzed, unable to move, and we have that scary WandaVision teardrop that's going on there. And I love that, you know, Joy again, like Joy is kind of the key to unlock is kind of like at least de-escalating the anxiety. So I love just how everything in relation to that, how these two characters have been kind of like on opposite ends, kind of like come together.
And of course,
this moment, but it's such a scary, but it's such a human scary moment, like a naturally scary moment.
You have to let her go.
Yeah. again, like anxiety's white knuckling it through the whole movie. It's like you know what, like literally let go of control a little bit there.
Mm-hmm.
Like
So
she's
the other
basically
thing,
a control freak, kind of.
yeah. The other thing too is I love in it going full circle again. We have her, go into the penalty box, and it's very much kind of like okay, kind of a timeout thing. She's kind of simmering. It's more like anger, probably kind of coming off anger being in control a little bit more than it was like anxiety. Not like a bitter like anger, just like okay, lost her
No, I
cool.
don't think so. I think the anger is what put her in the penalty box
Yeah.
to begin with, but her
Well, no.
reaction to being in the penalty box is very much anxiety.
Yeah, no, you're right. Anger is what put her in there. I'm saying when she's in there, she's not still like super angry. At the very
Right,
least,
right.
That's what I mean. Like anxiety is like still like
And it's
anxiety's
also
like,
stemmed
really,
from the fact that she attacked, like she blindly attacked Grace.
Oh yeah, that's like the main cause for the anxiety attack, at least how I read it. Is just her kind of like coping with like, oh my god, what have I become? I've treated my friends like shit this whole time. Like she's really waking up to just how poorly she's been treating the friends.
And again, just like this is a thing that Pete Docter's had ever since Monsters Inc., where he's had these moments of, and you can kind of trace it back to all the Pete Docter movies, I guess. These moments where you have a character who unintentionally has hurt another, where Sully and he scares Boo, and that's kind of Pete Docter.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
he's always used the example. I don't think it's ever happened to him in real life, but he's always used the examples like when a parent like bonks the kid's head on a car door, or something.
Right.
It's like when a parent like accidentally does something to hurt the child, but not intended at all. It's like a natural mistake, or it's like something that just kind of happens very unintentionally. It's very much Carl kind of hurt one. You say it's kind of Carl hurting Russell, or like.
Well, I would even say it's Carl just bonking the elderly or the orderly guy and him actually bleeding from that.
Well, you're right. That's the better example. I was thinking more like emotionally hurt Russell, like the like choosing like the house over the bird. But you're right. Then literally, yes, that's a better example.
Uh-huh.
And that's the thing. We kind of have these moments.
Sure.
And yeah, so we just kind of have this thing where again it feeds off the whole "I'm not good enough" realization of like, no, it'll be better once we score those 3 goals. So she's kind of tabled that realization, and then like she's paralyzed completely, where it's like I've hurt my child. I have put her in this state of like she's never going to be good enough, and now she can't do anything because I put so much pressure on her with all the anxiety. She's like basically locked in a little cube and like thinking she's going to die.
Yeah, it's just a brilliant illustration of how anxiety can just build up and build up and build up until finally you just can't deal with it anymore. You just have to break. One thing with anxiety, we would be absolutely remiss if we didn't bring up. Oh my god, I love this visual. Her chugging the 6 energy drinks.
Like the 3 in like each corner.
It's so visually satisfying. I just want a gif of that.
Pixar's got a thing with energy drinks.
Like she pops all 6 of them at the same time, and then it chugs them all at once.
Oh my god. Oh, it's. And then speaking of visually satisfying, I also like the 3 light bulbs that represent the 3 goals that Riley has to make. Yeah. That's also a nice little, visual cue there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So really good choice on the self tree where Joy does not plug it back in. She allows the new self tree to pop up, and the fact that was our solution to things where okay, all the basically maybe not the repressed, but all like kind of the distanced memories, all the mistakes. And again, this is where Pixar hits me where I live again. It's like always.
Yeah,
I'm haunted by all these moments in my life. I'm always haunted by every single like little mistake. So seeing it all flood back,
totally.
Feeding into like it has to be there. It has to. You can't. Like the first in Inside Out, we had like the forgotten memories, and that's like getting rid of like basically the it's like cleaning out an old computer or something. It's like cleaning out the stuff that these are like skills and like vague memories, but these aren't like short-term memories, aren't like recent things like mistakes and something you want to push back. These are like regrets more than memories. So the fact that they feed into who she is, and it needs to flow and it needs to create all the branches. Basically, we need to do the whole like multiverse MCU thing. We need all the branches. We need a branches on Loki to hold them. So that's essentially what we do here, and we create the new self. And the fact is, the self is ever changing. She can't be a perfect little soldier. She can't like a wind up toy. She can't be like the 40s daughter.
Like I'm a good person. I'm competitive. Sometimes I'm alone. I'm angry, that kind of
I
thing.
am. Yep. There's a lot of I ams.
So I was very skeptical. Like, I don't think this movie has an emotional equivalent to Take Her to the Moon for me. But I do think this movie has an emotional equivalent to Sadness Becomes Joy, which
There
is
you
this.
Mhm.
And I was impressed that they were able to find something that is like a natural evolution of that beat that they hit at the end of the first movie.
Yeah.
And anxiety, like actually learning her place, like yes, like them learning, like basically anxiety, like finding, like, providing like these scenarios that could potentially happen, but tempering it.
I also like the idea of them using anxiety for. Okay, first of all, well, are we done with the anxiety attack?
I mean,
Should we move on to the
I
like
think we
wrap
are.
up stuff?
What about anxiety?
I was gonna say anxiety is amazing. What's also amazing is how Maya Hawke delivers her lines in that chair. Oh yeah.
It's like anxiety definitely needed to relax.
But I love the idea of like, okay, anxiety is always going to be there, and you cannot fix that. Like that is one core thing that it's like for anyone suffering with anxiety, you can have good days. You can have good weeks or months even, but it's always going to be there. It's always going to resurface. And the best you can do is refocus it into positive stuff. So refocusing that on the Spanish test, that was brilliant. I love that. DNK says, I love the vibrating vocal distortion.
Yeah. And like I said, of course, the pun with the anxiety, like, was relaxing tea, but it's like just sitting in the chair drinking a relaxing cup of tea.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even like tea,
but I like how it's, she's still functioning though. It's not like they're just like pushing her off to the corner of the room like Sadness.
They're keeping anxiety in check.
But, they're still letting anxiety do her job. Like,
just refocusing her to other aspects she could be anxious over.
Like this could happen. It's like, but that's like providing anxiety can lead Riley to be productive, like studying for Spanish, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like this, even the Spanish word for forgot, which she points out.
It all works out. Anxiety gets a massage chair. Embarrassment speaks. It all works out.
Yep.
And yeah, like I said, I do think that the ending, I like the beat that the movie ends on, but I do think I kind of wish, I don't know, I kind of wish that maybe Riley would have had like a little bit of a frown at first, but then kind of like looked up hopefully or something like that.
Yeah.
Because I will say, like, if she straight up makes the team, I think that's a little bit of a cheat, especially after this. Like, I don't care that she pulled it together and was able to play nice at that last bit. She was a straight up jerk. And the coach already said that she wasn't ready. So I just do not buy that the coach would actually let her on the team.
I also kind of wish we saw more of her friends in the epilogue too.
Well, I thought she was like, wasn't she like texting or emailing?
Yeah, she was texting the friends. I didn't mind the fact that we didn't see the friends. I thought we got just as good of a wrap.
Well, plus they're at a different school. She wouldn't see them.
Right.
I know, but hanging out outside of school, that kind of thing.
To tell you the truth with the friends, would have been a really bold choice.
I mean, like in the credits or something too. I mean, that could have worked. But
we see her playing guitar. I don't know. I don't really feel like we need much else. I think a really bold choice for this movie would have been, what if one of the friends didn't forgive her? And she just had to live with that.
I mean,
it's a little dark, but that's life, though. I mean, who hasn't burned at least one bridge in their life?
Yeah, but here's the thing: if that didn't happen, Tiki, then it would be completely like she has this anxiety attack, and no one is there to comfort her.
And said as somebody who suffers from anxiety attacks all the time, that no one is there.
Don't hit me with the. It's the fact that as far as a movie goes, we want to end on at least a hopeful note, and you're right. They don't have to.
I'm saying maybe Grace forgave her, but the other one, who I'm terribly sorry, I'm blanking on her name.
Bree.
Yeah, maybe Bree doesn't forgive her. I don't know. Like maybe we could have done that.
Well, she slammed into Grace,
Well,
and Grace forgave her.
Well, the thing is, the way I see it, it's like they're such good friends that even this like one little scuffle wasn't going to ruin their friendship.
But it wasn't just one little scuffle. It was the fact that Riley was like, blowing them off the whole weekend.
Maybe they empathized with her. I mean,
Right.
and it would kind of ruin the point of the movie if one of them didn't forgive her.
Maybe that's something we could explore in the third movie is like what happens when a bridge actually does get burned.
There you go.
Like I said, I think that would have added just too much to the movie, to all the conflict already.
Also, would have added runtime too if we dedicated time to show. Okay,
you know what? This movie was 90 minutes. I would not have cared if this movie would have gone on another 10 minutes.
I mean, I wasn't mentioning the runtime. I was just saying there's already too much going on in the movie. If it's like,
yeah, I know.
If she lost a friend, that would just add like too much to it.
All right.
I mean, if that's like the central conflict, if you as you mentioned,
sometimes we like a happy ending, Tiki.
It's like something. If you would have like for the proposed Inside Out 3, perhaps that could be something that could happen.
And I would like to kind of end on I mean, if we have anything to wrap up on with some of the other stuff that we see at the ending.
Well, it's nice to see with their parents. We have like just the gag of just like how were things? Fine.
Things were good. It's like what does that mean? Did she join a gang? And then the dad's like, it's good. That makes sense.
Good enough for me.
Putting back the game. Putting on the game.
And I'm like, yep, that tracks.
It's
like, yep, that's how a lot of people's minds works. Like
I will say, Kyle Chandler, he does not have a lot of screen time in this one, but he is so freaking good at playing this character.
It's not Kyle Chandler.
What?
Not Kyle Chandler.
It's not really.
No,
Kyle MacLachlan.
Kyle MacLachlan.
Oh, I'm terribly sorry. I'm totally thinking of a different Kyle. My bad. You're right, Kyle MacLachlan. All right.
You're seeing two Kyles.
Oh God, it's totally Kyle.
Yeah.
God. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. You're right. MacLachlan is he's just so good at that role, man. Like even in the little screen time he does get, like you like his enthusiasm for the hockey stuff is just absolutely infectious.
I still wish we said what he did for a living, but aside from that, I love Mr. Anderson. He's great.
Yeah.
Because I think he manufactures T-shirts, but I don't know. Yeah. So, so that's great. And of course, we had a post-credit gag, which the deep dark secret thing. It's a whole nother.
I'm not a fan of it, but look, it's fine. I mean,
it's cute. It's okay. Yeah. It's like, okay, so what's this big dark secret? Okay, it's something that's not really.
Do you think that the fact that he goes back into the vault means that there might be other secrets?
I think the gag is like the secrets that maybe he was just reminded of. Like, okay, I gotta go back in the vault again.
I just think it's kind of interesting that even the emotions don't know what these deep dark secrets are.
Right, that's true.
Well, apparently, the reason for that being some of them aren't actually that deep and dark. You're just like, oh, really? That's what bothered you?
Oh God. Wait, maybe the deep dark secret is going to be also something explored in the next movie, if there is one.
Possibly.
I mean, it's sounding like there might be, but
I absolutely think that this movie, even more so than like The Incredibles at this point, I think this movie absolutely warrants a third movie.
Well, actually, they did say something in development right now. It sounds like it's going to happen. There's a testing ground, but I don't know.
Well, Greg, this movie literally became, I think, either the second or third biggest opening weekend for an animated movie ever. Like, come on, with the state that Disney's in right now, there's no way an Inside Out 3 doesn't.
Well, no, it's not that. I just mean like they're doing like that. They're trying to do a TV show for Inside Out, so we're gonna see how
No, just give us Inside Out 3 first. Round out the trilogy and then do a TV show.
Well, they didn't say when, so I mean, I guess.
I mean, I would be down for a TV show eventually, but round out the trilogy first.
All they need to decide is like, is there a third story we can tell? Maybe Riley in adulthood, that kind of.
There you go.
It's like we could have her emotions venture into adulthood.
Plus, again, there's always that spinoff. There's always that spinoff potential with Inside Out. So technically, if there was If you wanted to, they could shift it from non-Riley, but they would have to make sure their emotions are compelling. If there's
I was thinking a really interesting approach, and I doubt that they would actually do this, but a really interesting approach would be like, what if they kind of had like dual protagonists in Inside Out 3, and it was about Riley as like a college student getting married, and the mother was the other protagonist, and we saw like we kept going back, like both the mother's emotions and Riley's emotions had storylines.
I think the dual protagonist thing is actually it's a good idea, but again, it's
because I feel like we've seen the mother's emotions more than anyone else in this universe, besides Riley, of course.
It does feel like we might be building towards just a little something there, maybe a little bit. But regardless, it's the idea that yes, a dual protagonist thing might be interesting, but also it's going to be a big story hurdle because they've always struggled with like keeping it all as like one perspective. But you're right, though. They have been toying with it throughout these two movies. You know, just the whole like we have the scene with the other emotions. It's a big draw. It's something that they could do, but it's just going to be a heck of a thing they have to balance, especially if we keep adding new emotions.
You know, it would be a really fun like thing to do in the credits of the third movie is just go full ham and have like a smorgasbord of looking into the emotions of different Pixar characters.
God,
just like a fucking cavalcade.
There is one thing to do.
I would love to see I'd love to see like the Toy Story ones.
Oh God,
or Cars.
Oh man.
There is one thing you have to bear in mind, though. They kind of lucked out us at the very end of the movie. It's one thing to introduce new emotions for Riley, but the parents, though. That's the thing. That's when we started getting to the world building thing of all these other emotions, where we set up like at the end of the epilogue of the first Inside Out, we saw everyone had basically the core 5 emotions.
You know what? I'm willing to just kind of write that off as like the parents were not thinking that deeply. Like maybe the emotions were there, but they hadn't been really set off yet because things with Riley were good.
I know, that's what I'm saying. That's where they lucked out, where it feels like that, I can excuse that, but if we bring in more emotions on that both sides, like, wait a minute, where were they the whole time? You know, but that's the thing. Like, anxiety is one thing. Okay, now they're a little worried. Now they're getting to the puberty era. That's okay. That tracks anxiety. But
exactly.
Bringing all these other ones, though, then you start to ask, oh, wait a minute. Well, then again, still, it's like, I guess, you know, like in this moment, I guess like embarrassment is on a coffee break. I guess that's kind of the logic.
Or maybe just the logic with embarrassment is that as adults we just don't care as much about it.
I think taking the bridge off, I think it's more of like we've seen the Andersons are really effusive people. They do the monkey sounds and everything. They don't really get that super
exactly. Yeah.
But you know what I mean? I was saying with that, embarrassment's an example though, which is the idea of like all these other ones. Yeah, all I'm saying is they need to be careful. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, Z and K says my interpretation of the parents' extra emotions is simple. As someone grows older, they're able to keep them in check and under control better. Like maybe they have their own sub headquarters off screen somewhere. Yeah, I like that. I mean,
that could be the in-universe explanation. Obviously, the out-of-universe explanation, they didn't think of the other emotions, or they didn't decide not to include them in the movie the first time. So, obviously, that's the real reason. But I do like that explanation for the in-universe one.
You know what? I feel like a perfect story beat with Inside Out 3 is just maybe not hinge the whole story on this, but you got to have a moment where nostalgia is finally let into headquarters.
There you go.
It's kind of funny that's the only one where like, no, you're like 10 years too early.
You want to hear the dark version of Inside Out 3?
Oh, God, no.
Ready reboot.
Yes. Okay, so seriously, in the first iteration of Inside Out, when they were in the storeroom, one of the abandoned concepts for good reason. I don't know if this is Bill Hader's idea, but you know he was in there when this is like, and I think Bill Hader he was in the room when this was pitched. I don't know if he pitched it, but there was an idea briefly where Riley was, you know, she was knocked out. So it was kind of like a potential coma kind of thing.
Oh my God! Oh, thank God they didn't go with that.
Well, yeah, but I don't think it would have been like comatose the whole movie. I think maybe the third act she might have got knocked out, and it might have been like she might be in danger kind of thing.
Oh, okay. I thought you were implying that her being in a coma is what like brought about the emotion.
No. I'm saying those are the stakes. Like she's in danger because she's knocked out. You know,
right.
Regardless,
I'm
imagine.
glad they didn't go with that.
Yeah, so of course, but I'm saying for this
I
stupid.
mean, it would be an interesting thing to explore, though. Like maybe something as simple as like, going under for getting your wisdom teeth pulled or something like that.
But yeah, imagine this. Imagine Riley is she's in a precarious situation like that. I'm saying the serious pitch would be this. I won't get into the ridiculous pitch. Serious pitch would be she's in a precarious situation, and the way we introduce the story is like we're going through the memories to piece together what brought us to this state, and that's kind of like how the movie opens.
Oh man!
Like we go through the emotions.
Like Christopher Nolan with it.
Well, I was thinking more like the emotions. Like, okay, guys, let's recap what we know here, and then the projections, and that's how we kind of piece together what happened vaguely. I guess
basically the movie's version of you might be wondering how we got into this situation.
Yes, but with an actual projection system, basically do it like a murder mystery inside the head. Now that brings
I'm not gonna lie, that sounds kind of fun.
Now again, that's the legit pitch. The ridiculous pitch they'll never do. Okay, imagine it's like Riley, nostalgia's big moment. Riley towards the end there. And it's like the emotions reconciling. This is the end.
Oh God.
It's like, oh man, we're in the retirement home now. We're just trying to piece together what happened. It's nostalgia's big movie. Okay.
Or like nostalgia doesn't show up when it's just like Riley's forgetting. He's like, "Where's nostalgia when you need her?"
Oh my God!
That's because Riley has Alzheimer's.
Oh no! Oh God!
That's just bad.
Oh Jesus Christ! Yeah, that they would never touch.
That's what I mean exactly. So that's the version they'll never do, and they should.
Okay, that hypothetical, like, hey, let's have like a whirlwind tour through a bunch of fan favorite Pixar characters' emotions. Yeah, one of the particular fan favorite Pixar characters ain't doing so well in the head. I don't want to spell out who, but you get my drift, right? With the Alzheimer's thing,
right?
That would be dark.
No.
God. Okay, can you imagine?
Especially because the voice actor's not around, so it would,
I thought you were gonna make it. I thought you told me earlier not to make this depressing, Tiki.
Well, I don't know. I'm just rolling through. They'd obviously never do that.
I was thinking more like lighthearted, imagine when the Dories had the emotions begin.
Okay, that would be fun. That would be the lighthearted way.
That's initially what I thought you were going with. It's like,
all right.
Yeah, it's like, and then okay, never mind.
Okay, I think we're good. All right, so probably brings us to an end.
Yep.
Yeah, so if the first movie's a 10 out of 10, I think this movie is definitely a solid 8.5 out of 10.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's no take her to the moon moment, but really, again, I think that by and large, this movie has, the comedy is so on point, the characters are just very, very well executed, the creativity is there. This is the win that Pixar absolutely needed.
And the fact that it's a big success proves that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Proves that Pixar still has it.
Forget about Pixar though. As far as the box office being as big as it was, Hollywood needed this movie, not just Pixar.
Oh yeah.
Yep, congrats to Kelsey Mann. Kelsey Mann did a great job.
Indeed.
In his debut. That's not to say I still don't want to see kind of our other Pixar directors. I want to see the Kelsey Mann original Pixar film. I would like to see that.
Well, I mean, maybe with the success of this movie, he will get his own.
I would like to think so. I mean, it worked for Domeishi. Let's see how it goes.
I'm kind of worried about the fate of original Pixar content in general.
Well, let's not dwell on that right now. The point being, thinking positively.
I mean, hopefully they're like, you know what? We need another concept to become the next Inside Out. Because I'd say it's fair to say that Inside Out, just as a franchise, is by and large the spiritual successor to the Toy Story franchise, right? That's pretty fair to say.
At the moment, because again, it has endless sequel potential.
Yeah. So it's I don't know. I feel like just for the sake of and honestly, I kind of understand some logic to the whole let's not lean too autobiographical with it, because you do want a blank canvas of sorts. Even though the first Inside Out movie was very autobiographical, you did have that kind of endless canvas of creativity that you didn't necessarily have in something like a Luca or a Turning Red, as much as I really do like both of those movies a lot.
Well, I don't know.
And to be fair, it didn't say they were completely discounting the autobiographical stuff. It's just that they're going to focus on like other kinds of movies with more appeal. They're not going to completely stop doing the autobiographical stuff.
I do.
Yeah, we'll see.
I love when we get the chance to do the autobiographical stuff because I think I really like how it allows the filmmakers to shine. I don't know, it's something kind of nice and personal for them. That's not.
Like I said, there's a place for them. I don't think they're completely going to get rid of them. From what I understand, it's just like they're trying to focus on proving they still can do what they used to do.
Well, I mean, like, if you look at something like a Monsters, Inc. or a Finding Nemo, for example, like, both of those movies have very universal themes, but they're not necessarily autobiographical. You know what I mean?
Well,
and I think that's kind of.
Oh no, you're right. In the case of Finding Nemo, it is.
Yeah,
and I think that's the kind of thing that Pixar excels at. Like, the universal themes, and I think that's where Pixar's at their best.
I mean, Wall-E certainly isn't autobiographical.
No.
I know.
I understand it take a little bit of musical theater. That's as far as.
That's
like one of my favorite Pixar movies. But
yeah, so that's what I'm saying. But I'm saying it's the fact that
they did do a lot of autobiographical movies in a row. They did like 3 or 4 of them in a row. You know what drives me crazy about the whole statement, though, is the fact that within that statement they do not mention that Lightyear was far and away the worst movie out of that bunch, and that was very much not an original idea. But I digress.
Yeah, that is a good point. But I'm just saying, like, this movie definitely plays to all of Pixar's strengths and proves that they've still got some magic left in the tank.
Indeed.
Yep.
Okay, Dragon. Final thoughts on your end?
Yeah, just again, I'm proud. I'm proud of how Inside Out 2 turned out. Great movie, solid entry. Definitely kind of like, it's nice to get back into the creative groove with with Pixar without basically having a moment of like hesitation or having to defend it or sort of like highlighting all the really good stuff. I think everyone's going on the same page. I mean, they really knocked it out of the ballpark with this. Is it like the classic, the original Inside Out was? No, but that's because it's like the expectations of that. Like, it's hard to compare those.
Most important thing is like it validates its existence. Like,
exactly.
It does. It feels like
It's like they can tell they like put a lot of heart and pardon the pun, soul into this movie.
Yeah.
It's like, when you look at a movie like Monsters University in comparison, like, that movie has an awesome third act, but then it's just kind of like a bunch of like college gags throughout most of it. Although I will say, I just started watching Monsters at Work season 2. Mm-hmm. Very excited to see what they do with the Nathan Fillion character. I'm 2 episodes in. I'm very excited about that. But anyways.
I'll just wait for episode 3.
Oh boy. Yeah, seriously, folks, Monsters at Work season 2, like, holy crap, who would have ever thought that would turn out really good?
I told you.
Yeah, we remember we even did our own. Dragon and I did season 2 Spoilercast.
I know.
I was just telling the people.
I wasn't even planning on watching it, frankly, but I heard good things, and indeed, it is quite good so far.
Rich Schweikert. Okay, anyway.
He's the Rich Schweikert?
What?
Fillion is the Rich Schweikert?
Yeah, he's the Rich
Okay,
Schweikert.
I'll keep that in mind going forward. I only just got through episode 2.
That's what I'm saying. He's like the Rich Schweikert character.
All right.
Anyway, yeah. So, of course, I'm always down for Pixar getting a big win. So, congrats to Kelsey Mann and all the crew that made this happen. Also, a little Dave Holstein magic. Again, folks, if any of you liked Inside Out 2, I'm going to implore you all, watch the show Kidding.
Yes.
Just going to say that. If you take away anything from, like a sentence from what we've said here, this long conversation, Kidding is a great show. Watch it. Okay. Also, Inside Out's awesome.
All right.
2. Okay.
Okay, big thanks to Z and K, Little Blue, Lucas Calderon. Let's see. We have Kogias. I think that's about it.
Yeah.
All right.
Never mind.
All right. Well, that'll take us out then, folks. See you later. Have a good night.
Good
Can you tell me which item we can use?
night. Pouchy!